I always remember I had an accident at school when they were taking the shelters down. I was still at Green, and they were taking the shelters down, and you know the strengthening that they had, those the thick metal strengthening bars they had in reinforced concrete. Well, I had one of those stuck in my leg. Now, they didn't send for an ambulance, they put a plaster on it, and one of the teachers popped me on the saddle of his bike and pushed me home. Whereupon my mum borrowed a bike, put me on the saddle of that, and pushed me to the doctor's. Wherein he'd come back from the war, so it was after the war. He'd come back, and he had this magical stuff called penicillin, and I had some penicillin powder put on, and I was told, my mum was given this penicillin powder by Dr. Sally and said that, you know, if there's any sign of swelling, tell him immediately, because otherwise, you know. And I went eventually, and I've still got the scar now. It's a little round thing, but it's those big thing that went straight in and hit the bone. When they were taking the shelters down, because there were shelters in the playgrounds, round the playgrounds at the school, especially the one I was in, and the bottom, the green end was divided into two schools. It had one at the top, and then there was one sort of at the far end. In the far end, there was shelters there, and that's where I got stuck. Got something stuck. It just showed you. I mean, there was none of this screaming.
No panicking. No. Demanding an ambulance.
Shove it on a bike. Get him home. That was, it really, And when I had my tonsils out, I had my tonsils out at the baby's hospital in Burnage, Duchess of York, and in the outpatients department across the road, there was the Duchess of York Hospital, which was on the left-hand side of the road. And there was a big house there. I can't remember what it was called, but it was a big house. And my mum put me in a pram, pushed me there. I was given an anaesthetic. My tonsils were whipped out. They then put back in the pram, and I was pushed home. And there was all these other kids all screaming blue murder, and that was what it was. They were doing what they call snatches. In those days, there's two ways of actually taking tonsils. I'm going technical now. There's two ways of taking tonsils out. One is use a dissection tonsillectomy, and the other one is called a snatch. And the snatch is where they grab hold of the tonsil with a pair of things, put a wire round it, and it's like an instrument with a sort of a wire loop. They put the thing round it, and they just go like that, and it cuts it off. And then they just put a tie on it, and that's the way. The other one is the guillotine. They have the guillotine, and that again was a snatch. Whereas the other one, they dissected it all out. That was the posh when they did that with adults. But kids, they used to do just snatches and just do them either with a guillotine or or this loop thing that they cut them out and then they just sent home. It was only when one of the children died due to bleeding that they then started keeping them in, but otherwise, certainly. And I went there also for sunshine treatment, where you got ultraviolet light. They put you with goggles on and sit you in front of this lamp for a few minutes, and that it was just like, you see them getting sunlight treatment. They go and get their tan now. Well, that was actually, given to young kids as well, because I had asthma, and consequently I was a bit sickly at the time. So consequently, that was another thing that they did for you. But it was very different then. And don't forget, it was before the NHS come in. My mum paid £6 a week to the doctor. To the doctor, and that meant you were on his books. So you could call, but the doctor used to come out to you. They didn't go out at night. There was no. They did work very, very hard, 7 days a week. It was very different. It was. You never went to the doctor unless you were really ill. You know, you were virtually at death's door when you went to the doctor because you know you didn't want to bother them, and it was just you were they were treated with all sorts of things, like tummy ache was treated with for babies was treated with cinder tea, which was hot cinders out of the fire shoved in a cup of water, and it sizzled and such like, and then you fed the water to the baby, and that was cinder tea was for babies with what they say in the old days, belly watch. But no, things were going. I always used to remember that kids as well. It was quite Impetigo and such like was going round, and everybody used to play Merry Hell that the kids were going around and yeah, look at that, and they'd be walking around with gentian violet or brilliant green on, you know, and there was these sort of on, and they paint them with these aniline dye things, which was before a lot of the antibiotics, and they used to have purple all around the map. Yeah, you've got Impetigo, you know. But Impetigo and all this sort of thing was fairly common. It wasn't. Carbuncles, I remember, was very common with people for some reason or other. And chilblains, obviously, with your feet in front of the fire, you used to get chilblains, and they were very uncommon. You don't see people with them now, but I think it was also vitamin deficiency as well as warming your feet in front of the fire, you know, toasting your toes. But ordinary toast used to taste great because most people had toasting forks. You used to toast bread in front of the fire, and that was a real treat, you know. It was lovely, that. But I don't know, things have changed a little.